along with many of my colleagues, both Muslim colleagues and Christian and Jewish colleagues, we're just appalled by this tragedy that's unfolded in Paris. We feel very much that this is part of a wider narrative of a religious problem within Islamdom at the moment, where a kind of honor and shame tribalism has been brought to the fore in a way that we would see as idolatrous to God, actually. God doesn't need people to defend him from blasphemy. Rather, the taking of innocent life itself is a blasphemy against God and any true religion. We see this very much as a case of a type of assertion, a bullying assertion by those Muslims who identify not so much with a belief in the one God, but with their loyalty to a so-called Muslim tribe and the assertion of that tribal power over other communities. That kind of assertion that you must respect Islam, you must respect my religion, you must respect my community, is something that we patently not to be reciprocated in the treatment of other faith communities, Christian minorities, persecuted Christian minorities in Muslim countries, and other minority communities. So this is a very one-sided assertion by our tribal dynamic within the Muslim community at the moment.
Why do you think Islam is so open to this sort of radical interpretation? And do you think enough is being done by Muslim leaders to sort of counter this fundamentalist extremist attitude?
Well, I think what we have in Islamdom at the moment is a real problem of not recognizing that at the heart of our interpretation at the moment in theological terms is a kind of supremacist, supersessionist ideology. And what concerns me is that every time there is a violent outrage by Muslims in whichever part of the world, we get responses from British Muslim leaders that follow a very standard routine of expressing shock at violence committed in the name of Islam, the assertion thereafter that Islam is a religion of peace and that Muslims are peaceful people, and then thirdly that more money should be put into promoting Muslim leadership and community cohesion and general togetherness at taxpayers' expense here in the UK. And I think the British people are really rather tired of hearing that. I feel quite strongly that a number of the organizations and individuals, the Muslim leaders that have been making these routine statements in response to instances of Islamist violence are themselves supporting organizations that may not be violently Islamist, but certainly maintain interpretations of Islamic sources that are nonetheless supremacist and literalist, and ultimately aim to expand a kind of a political Islam here in this country and to promote ever more Muslim political power.
Obviously, we don't have any of these Muslim leaders here to defend themselves on that. But what you seem to be saying as well is that there seems to be a fear of speaking out against this fundamentalism. So why do you think there can't be more of an open debate? And why do you think more leaders are not standing out and condemning what's happening?
There has not been a proper engagement with the realities of the world in which we live in today, which is a world where there is a freedom to discuss, debate and to challenge ideas, including theological ideas. In contrast to, my background was in medical life before I trained as an imam, and it was an absolute shock and horror to me coming out of an environment of scientific discussion and robust disagreement to a religious environment where both theological disagreement and also critique of religious leadership was stamped upon, was ground down. And within the Muslim community, those who express dissenting views, dissenting theological views, or critique of Muslim leadership, they are subject to the same kind of bullying and threats and abuse that we've seen expressed in a violent way in this instance and in other instances.
Yes.
So if within religious context we cannot discuss, debate and challenge religious ideas and religious leadership, then we cannot have the kind of critique of violent Islamism that we've seen, we're seeing on our streets and in our newspapers at the present time. And Muslim leaders and others will not come forward because there is a general climate of fear.
Sure. You speak out, though, as a Muslim, as an imam. How difficult is that for you?
I have taken the view that really after years and years of being pushed down and ground down and pressure on my academic life and all the rest of it, I'm in a position now where I just kind of don't have anything left to lose. I'm very fortunate in an enormous amount of solidarity and support from colleagues of different faith backgrounds, all of us, non-Muslims and Muslims, who speak out about extremist readings of religious belief, face the same challenges. And as I say, it isn't confined entirely to the Muslim domain. I think we as Muslims stand uniquely in regard to the extent to which physical violence is brought to bear in relation to silencing those who express dissent or whistleblow. But nonetheless, we've had other experiences in other contexts where religious this sense of religiously motivated entitlement that you must respect us as religious people, you must respect Islam, you must respect the Anglican Church, or me as a Muslim with a imam's beard, or me with a clergyman's dog collar. This kind of attitude has been imposed upon our colleagues of mine.
If I can just go back, Mohammed, to the events in Paris and what happened, particularly at the magazine Charlie Hebdo, would you have been offended by the images that they publicised over the last few years or so?
We have to defend the right of people to express their views, and to a certain extent that requires us as religious people to have to tolerate a certain amount of offence given, even if it is wanton. And we have to pay that price, I believe, in the cause of defending the right of people to express theological disagreement and legitimate critique, which we ought to be able to express of all religious traditions. I believe it is the price we pay. It may be offensive to many people, but nonetheless, there is no cause for us to resort to violence in trying to suppress that freedom.